structure is negotiating around a symmetry boundary. On the weekly chart, the prior high at 129.030 established structural extension above its 120 moving average. At that moment, the weekly 120 moving average was positioned near 82,281. The distance between price and structural weight was measurable. That distance defined excess. When that distance is projected symmetrically below the 120 moving average, a lower structural field appears near 35,532. Between the peak and that projected symmetry, proportional zones emerge: 0.75, 0.66, 0.50, 0.33, 0.25. These are proportional redistribution layers. They define stages of excess reduction relative to weekly structural weight. As price rotates through them, volatility redistributes across time. The multi-week decline has not been random. It has represented progressive engagement with those symmetry layers. Weekly bodies reduced prior excess extension from the 120 moving average. Upper wick dominance diminished during contraction. Distance to the 120 moving average contracted during that phase. However, recent price behavior has partially re-expanded that distance. The 120 moving average remains positioned above active price. Structural weight has not been reclaimed. Distance is no longer compressing in a straight sequence. It is fluctuating within redistribution. Compression reduced excess. Re-expansion reflects redistribution, not relocation. The relationship between price and the 120 moving average remains structurally unresolved. Interaction frequency increases as proportional layers are processed. Recently, the 0.33 symmetry zone has been engaged on lower timeframes. That engagement did not occur in isolation. It occurred inside weekly proportional contraction mechanics. On the hourly chart, the 23rd New York session anchor formed between the 20th New York anchor and the 5th Asia anchor. Its upper boundary aligned with the 0.33 proportional layer and the hourly 20 moving average. That overlap increased structural density. Price engaged that zone. Persistence did not form. The hourly 20 moving average was not maintained. The New York anchor box was relocated lower. Containment shifted. Duration shortened. The 20 Bollinger upper band compressed inward toward the 120 moving average. Its slope flattened temporarily. The lower band steadied before flattening as well. Flatness matters. Flatness reflects absorption. Absorption delays continuation. At the same time, the 4 Bollinger lower band expanded more decisively than the upper band. Short-term volatility expressed asymmetry. Downside expansion extended with less resistance than upside engagement. The 20 moving average has begun separating from the 120 moving average again. Distance between averages is widening. Widening reflects redistribution acceleration, not confirmed relocation. Weekly symmetry defines boundary. Hourly sessions define engagement. Processing continues inside that layered containment. Volatility is expanding inside a prior session-defined field. On the hourly timeframe, the upper retest sequence remains layered. First stands the upper boundary of the 5th Asia session anchor. Above it rests the 23rd New York anchor. Then the 20th New York anchor. Then the 22nd Asia anchor. Then the 20 moving average. Then the 120 moving average. Each layer carries structural memory. Each memory defines friction. Acceptance has not formed above these overlapping boundaries. Engagement occurs briefly. Continuation fails quickly. Duration remains limited. The 20 Bollinger bands are now expanding on both sides. However, the lower band slope is steeper than the upper band slope. Slope asymmetry reflects directional volatility imbalance. Upper expansion lacks persistence. Lower expansion sustains longer sequences. Angle difference matters. The 4 Bollinger bands are expanding simultaneously upward and downward. Short-term volatility is increasing. But expansion alone does not equal relocation. Relocation requires persistence beyond structural weight. Without persistence, expansion redistributes inside containment. Compression blocks are still visible. The 20 upper band recently flattened for multiple candles. Candle bodies shortened during that phase. Wicks increased relative to bodies. Range contracted for several sequences. Flatness dominated. Absorption intensified. Redistribution slowed. Then expansion resumed. But expansion has remained below the 120 moving average. The lower retest structure is equally layered. The fifth Asia session lower boundary remains active. Below that rests the 0.25 proportional symmetry layer. That proportional zone has not yet been engaged with duration. It remains structurally visible. Interaction above it is fluctuating. As long as price rotates between 0.33 and 0.25 proportional layers, redistribution persists. Higher timeframe symmetry defines containment field. Hourly anchors define behavioral negotiation. The distance between the 20 and 120 moving averages continues widening. Wider separation increases structural gradient. Greater gradient increases volatility potential. But potential does not equal structural completion. Completion requires duration. Duration has not formed. Volatility expands, then compresses, then expands again. Processing continues inside layered session containment. Lower time frame behavior remains nested within the hourly boundary. On the 15-minute chart, interaction continues inside the 23rd New York and 5th Asia session structures. Micro-rotations form beneath the hourly 20 moving average. Persistence above that average remains limited. The 15-minute 20 moving average slopes downward. Its angle steepens during downside impulses. It flattens briefly during rotational pauses. Slope variation reflects tempo shifts. Steeper slope increases short duration imbalance. Flattening slope slows redistribution. Neither has yet produced sustained relocation. The 15-minute 4 Bollinger Bands display repeated contraction followed by rapid expansion. Contraction clusters precede directional impulses. Bandwidth narrows before release. Expansion then discharges stored volatility. This contraction-expansion cycle has repeated multiple times. Each expansion has failed to reclaim hourly structural weight. Each rotation has remained contained beneath higher anchors. Containment remains intact. Overlap duration is visible between the 23rd New York anchor and the 5th Asia midpoint. Price spends extended time inside that overlap. Interaction frequency increases. Micro-volatility intensifies within that confined space. Micro-volatility does not imply relocation. It reflects redistribution within boundary. Higher structural weight remains overhead. When lower timeframe expansion attempts upward engagement, it meets prior hourly anchors quickly. Continuation fails within short duration. Rejection returns price toward lower containment. When lower timeframe expands downward, interaction with the 5th Asia lower boundary increases. Duration near that level has expanded modestly. However, structural completion below 0.25 has not formed. Weekly symmetry at 0.33 has been processed. 0.25 remains structurally present. Hourly averages remain separated. Bands remain expanded. Distance is active. Slope remains downward. Containment persists. Price continues processing between proportional symmetry and session-defined structural weight,